Good evening, good evening, good evening, everyone. Welcome, welcome, welcome. It is the first Tuesday in the month, and you know what that means. It's time for our Temple Care Matters monthly webinar. I'm going to be your moderator this evening, Michael O. Minor, and I am humbled to be the National Director of our National Baptist Convention USA Incorporated Hope Health Ministry. And before we get started tonight, we are on Zoom. We are on social media. So why don't you do like I'm doing right now? Why don't you go in and check out and make sure that you've shared it to your Facebook family. Also, you can copy the link from our YouTube site and you can paste it and text to some people. We are excited about having a very special guest tonight to talk to us about women's and heart health. So let's all get ready to be informed and be inspired on tonight's webinar. Okay? Well, we want to welcome everybody to a February session of TempleCare Matters. And we begin, as we always do, by acknowledging our national leadership. Of course, we begin with our president, Dr. Jerry Young, our general secretary, Dr. Alvin Edwards, the chair of our federal faith-based initiative, Dr. Alvin Love, and of course, all the team members of Your Hope Health Initiative. We're glad you joined us tonight. I know many of us are still rejoicing over an inspirational, informative Midwinter Board meeting last month in Birmingham. All right, well, what are we going to do this evening? Well, this evening's TempleCare Matters webinar, we will share about February's suggested health and services. All right, you see I have my red shirt on, red and white. It's the American Heart Association Heart Month. It's also today is National Black HIV/AIDS Awareness Day. We're going to talk about the NBCUSA Hope Wear Red Sunday, which is February 19th. And we will have some updates from Let's Move. And finally, we'll provide some more information about our mental health first aid training. All right, we want to remind everyone that this evening's webinar is supported by funding from the NIH's All of Us research program. Let me just pause a moment to tell you that this robust program is seeking to enroll 1 million or more people. For us, the National Baptists, we're excited about the All of Us research program. Why? In this database, there are more people with sickle cell or the sickle cell trait in this database than any other database that's been put together. So we would like for you tonight to go to joinallofus.org/NBCUSA to learn more information. And while you're at it, you go ahead and begin the enrollment process. If you've already enrolled, why don't you share it with a friend of yours? Go and text them tonight or share it. joinallofus.org/NBCUSA. And in the words of the late John E.W. Golden, you'll be glad you did. And of course, to know that you're on the right website, you'll see the picture of Sister Minor and I. That is the official All of Us landing page for the National Baptist Convention USA Incorporated. All right. Now, this webinar is the 11th in a series of our first Tuesday TempleCare Matters webinars. They're involved in the hybrid events. We have people across the country said that some are doing it virtual, some are having in-person watch gatherings in their local congregations. We're just excited about how you have really embraced our All of Us research program. In each one of these sessions, we're going to try to look at a different aspect, a different pillar of our TempleCare Matters. All right. Now, I know we're still going to have this coming up, the COVID-19 update. COVID-19 update. Well, President Biden recently announced that the COVID-19 public health emergency will end on May 11th. The COVID-19 public health emergency will end on May 11th. The end of the public health emergency will have a significant impact on older adults. Some changes will be immediate, others won't occur for nearly 2 years. Some actually may improve care for older adults. Others could cost seniors more money and end some important benefits that seniors have received during the pandemic. We'll be posting more information on our NBCUSA Facebook page so that you can be informed and know what the end of this public health emergency means. But in the meantime, hopefully all of y'all have gotten your COVID booster, your flu shot, and so that we can make sure that we do everything we can to keep the track going. We've gone from a pandemic, now we're in an endemic, and we're praying soon we'll be in a no-demic. Come on, NBC USA, let's make sure that we stay vaccinated up. All right? And of course, I'm wearing my red tonight. I'm excited, y'all. I am so excited. Wow, I'm super excited about Wear Red Sunday. Each year, I'm excited about it, about women and heart health. Women and heart health. Amen. My grandmother had an enlarged heart, and at the time, this was back in the 70s, weren't many procedures, medication, things to do to help her. And she died. She didn't make it to 65. She was 64 years old. So this is something very dear to me for Wear Red for Women in Heart Health. Now, I want you all, look, NBC USA Nation, I want everybody on the third Sunday, wherever you are across the country, to wear your red, take some pictures. We want to post them on Facebook, during your worship service, share some information about women in heart health. We're going to be sharing some photos of the different congregations on our social media platforms. We all want to be a part of it. Okay, there we go. National Baptist Nation, Team National Baptist, wherever you want to land up, do it. The third Sunday, let's wear red. All right, now we're to the special panelists, and we're going to talk about women in heart health. Well, we have a surprise. I'm like Gomer Powell tonight. Surprise. We got a special guest panelist. All right. You know what? I asked him how to pronounce his short part of his name. And I didn't ask him how to pronounce his name. So I'm going to do the best I can. And when he comes on, he'll correct me. Dr. Marius Chakrura. I guess I was close. Dr. Mazi is a first generation Nigerian American born and raised in Maryland. He earned his Bachelor of Science degree in Biological Science at the University of Maryland, Baltimore County in 2014, and his medical degree from Howard University College of Medicine, HBCU, in 2018. He is a board certified internist, having completed his internal medicine training at Duke University Hospital in June 2021. He now resides in West Philadelphia and is completing his cardiology fellowship at the Hospital of the University of Pennsylvania. And then over the course of his educational and professional career, he has prioritized mentorship of underrepresented minorities, advocacy, promotion of diversity, and community outreach. Dr. Mazi is going to really share with us tonight. And we have a special moderator. So y'all have to hear me all night long. Our very own Sister Bettina Campbell, our NBCU Hope National Mental Health and a Better Way Coordinator. And they have some questions they're going to handle. And Duke and I will be looking in the chat. You all need to share this. We have an awesome panelist tonight. And come on, NBCUS Nation, let's be informed. Sister Bettina, we're in your hands.
Thank you, Doctor. Again, Dr. Mazi, we are so glad to have you here with us. You just don't know how glad we are to have you here with us this evening. Thank you again for being so gracious enough to accept our invitation. So let's start.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate you.
Thank you. Let's start by saying, pronounce your last name for Dr. Minor, please.
Sure. It's Shakur. I always tell people it's like Shakur, like Tupac Shakur, but with a ch in the beginning and the at the end. Shakura. Yeah.
Like the Shakura. Okay, nice. Okay, so let's get into the questioning. And my first question for you is, what is the number one killer of women?
So the number one killer of women, the number one ailment that produces the highest mortality in women is actually cardiovascular disease, heart health issues. Point blank period. There's nothing really else to add to that.
All right. So what are some of the symptoms of a heart attack for a woman? And are they different from men, from the symptoms that men have?
Excellent question. So when it comes to a heart attack, the general stereotypical symptoms we look for are chest pain, particularly left-sided chest pain. And that pain itself can start in the chest, but it also can, what we call radiate. It can move to the left arm, it can move to the left neck, right neck, it can move to the jaw, but some sort of pain in the left chest. And classically, it's described as somebody feeling like there's an elephant sitting on their chest, like a chest pressure. That's probably the most concerning symptom. With that, you can have associated symptoms such as sweating. You can break out into a sweat when the pain comes on, when the pain has its onset. You can become short of breath. Those are probably the most concerning symptoms in general for both men and women. And to kind of pinpoint your question in particular, women fall in a population of patients, and really it's women and diabetics. Believe it or not, women and diabetics have what we call atypical presentations. So that being said, those classic symptoms I just described might not be what symptoms that a woman has when she's having a heart attack. So the chest pain might not be classically left-sided, it might be on the right side. They might have back pain or stomach pain, or even pain that feels like indigestion. That could be what's called their anginal equivalent. Angina is the medical term for chest pain. They can also have what's called a fluttering heart, palpitations. They can feel lightheaded, dizzy. Really, there's a whole slew of different symptoms that a woman could have that could actually be an atypical symptom overall, but it could be indicative that they're having a heart attack. The one thing that I want to say is that what makes something even more suspicious for it being related to the heart is the symptom you're experiencing, whether it's typical or atypical, is it brought on by exertional activity? Meaning you're climbing the steps, you're lifting something, you're working out, you're running on a treadmill, different activities that might have previously not caused you to have that symptom come on, but now you notice it's causing some type of weird symptom to come on. Don't ignore that. You want to get that checked out. So is it brought on by exertion? Secondly, is it relieved by rest? It might sound like it's two of the same thing, but it's two sides of the same coin. One, does exertional activity bring on the symptom? And two, when you rest and stop doing whatever activity, does that symptom go away? That raises concern as well, that it might be related to your heart.
Okay, thank you so very much. What are the risk factors for heart disease in women?
The same risk factors that we have in the general population. So I would say smoking, tobacco is probably one of the highest risk factors, one of the largest risk factors we have for general population, but particularly in women as well. Unhealthy dietary choices. So, eating a lot of fatty foods, basically promoting high cholesterol, that can lead to plaque buildup in the heart arteries, the heart blood supply, the coronary arteries, that can lead to heart disease. Salty foods, fried foods, using a lot of oil in food in general, but fried foods. Stress, believe it or not, stress is a risk factor. Stress has an implication on cardiovascular health. Just in general, not maintaining a healthy lifestyle, poor behavioral choices. So not exercising. The recommended amount of exercise is, at least, 30 minutes a day, 5 times a week, or 3 times a week, 45 minutes each day. But in total, if you do the math, that's about, close to 150 minutes exercise that's recommended in a week. So not really meeting your exercise or physical activity goals can also predispose women to heart disease. And then, you know, believe it or not, women actually have a protective factor in their estrogen. Estrogen is actually a protective factor against heart disease. So as women age, as we all age, certain hormone changes can happen naturally. And particularly in women, the decrease in estrogen as they age and advance towards menopause can put them at higher risk for heart disease. So advanced age in general, again, this is not really specific to women, because as men age, their risk also increases as well. But the hormonal shift in terms of estrogen levels, in particular in women, is what can increase the risk for heart disease as well.
Oh, wow. Thank you for sharing that information. So the flip side of that, to reduce our risk, we just need to listen to what you said, put us at risk, and stop eating a lot of fried chicken and start working out. Stop smoking and reduce the amount of drinking that we're doing, and so forth and so on. Am I right?
I didn't even touch on alcohol, but alcohol intake is a big one too. Like, you want to make sure you moderate. I always say, you know, nobody's perfect. You know, in this life, we have to be able to enjoy, you know, somewhat, but moderation is the key. Just don't do anything to the far point of extreme where you're starting to have negative impacts on your health. So, whoa. And again, I say that with most things. I can never advocate for smoking tobacco or using tobacco products. There's no moderation in that. I always tell patients that's the number one thing you just want to stop. You just want to drop that if possible.
So while we're talking about that, what about secondhand smoke? Can it increase our risk of heart attack?
Yes, it can. It can. So secondhand smoke, there's been evidence and research that shows that also can predispose to any complication that, you know, firsthand and primary user smoke can lead to. That being COPD, you know, primary lung issues, heart disease, you name it. It may not be as precipitous, as fast as if it was you smoking yourself or ingesting tobacco products, but secondhand smoke can negatively impact your health. So you want to try to, at the best you can, remove yourself from those environments and remove your exposure to secondhand smoke as much as possible.
Okay. And you talked a lot about as women age, their risk for, but are older women the only ones that are at risk for cardiovascular disease?
Not at all. Not at all. And cardiovascular disease is like, it's an umbrella term because there's so many different flavors of cardiovascular disease you can have. I'm sure folks in the audience have heard of atrial fibrillation or AFib. Folks have heard of coronary disease or atherosclerosis. Folks have heard of peripheral artery disease, heart failure, you name it. And you talk about, you know, the older population that we just touched on and how age just inherently increases your risk for all of these things. But younger patients as well can have elevated risk. And some of that will stem from genetics. Believe it or not, one thing we also promote in medicine is you can't outrun your genetics. You can do everything in the world. You can be the perfect patient, adhere to an excellent diet, make excellent behavioral choices, but you may still be at a higher predisposition and risk than another person who's not doing all the right things, and simply of genetics. And genetics falls into the umbrella of us as a Black population in general, because, you know, we inherently have a higher risk of a lot of cardiovascular disease simply because of genetic outlook. But I will say that, you know, younger women may have that factor at play, genetics, but then also, being of childbearing age, undergoing pregnancy, having a child, there's something we call peripartum cardiomyopathy. Cardiomyopathy is a blanket term. It's a bucket term, basically. Cardio meaning heart, myo meaning muscle, pathy meaning condition or disease. It's a condition in which the heart muscle becomes abnormal, whether the squeezing function of the heart's decreased, or the filling function of the heart's decreased, or it becomes thicker. Something about the heart changes. That's due to the hormonal shifts that happen in the body in pregnant women. So you could be young, 26. I actually read an echocardiogram today, I think a 26-year-old patient who has peripartum cardiomyopathy because she, had a child, she gave birth. It's not to say that that's always going to happen to every woman that wants to have a child, but it is something that women are at particular risk for when bearing children. So, young or old, there's different risk factors that can be at play.
Thank you. I'm sure that everyone was very happy to hear that information, because we have so many issues with pregnant and parenting women of children a year or younger. So it's really nice to know that we need to be more vigilant about that. But let me ask you something. It was in the one of the questions from social media. What they wanted to know, is vaping a problem?
Yes, vaping. So vaping is probably one of the most undermined issues that's becoming a plague in our society. Vaping is a huge problem. Vaping actually, in some cases, may be worse than using electronic, cigarettes or regular cigarettes. It's become popular because it's like an advancement in technology and a way to obtain tobacco products and utilize it, almost like a fad. But vaping, there's actually a specific classification of lung disease called vaping associated pneumonia that can develop, and I've seen it actually be highly deadly for patients in the ICU when I was at Duke working, maybe about 3 years ago. But again, it's something that's starting to gain a lot more air and publicity, especially as my pulmonology colleagues begin to really touch on the subject. But vaping is in itself not a safe method. There's really no safe method of tobacco ingestion. Tobacco in general is not a good product to utilize because of its chemical effects on the body. But in particular, smoking tobacco can be the worst, no matter what form it is, whether it's using a pipe, cigarette, vape, vaporizer machine. The inhalants that you take in have direct access to the lungs, and that's where the damage is done.
Well, a lot of us, we drink, we eat greasy foods, we don't work out, but we pop a vitamin. Is that going to stop us from having a heart attack?
Believe it or not, there's been some suggestion of like vitamin C, vitamin E, being two vitamins that may, potentially be protective, but there's no clear studies, there's no validation. It's not like an FDA approved type of suggestion that's been through clinical trials and it's been demonstrated in a large population for us to recommend vitamins, particularly for prevention of heart disease. I always tell people take your daily multivitamin anyway, because otherwise, you're reliant upon getting all your vitamin intake from the food choices you make every day. And you may not want to eat, whatever food has the most biotin in it or zinc in it or vitamin D. You might not drink a glass of milk every day. But you taking a daily vitamin will ensure that you receive your daily amounts that are recommended to keep those levels where they're supposed to be. Especially if you're somebody that works in dark spaces where you don't get enough sunlight. And then you want to talk about, Black people in general, kind of making the umbrella a little bit bigger, not just focusing on women, but people of darker skin tones in general. Our skin actually refracts a lot of sunlight. It helps actually protects us. It protects us against skin cancer. Not to say you shouldn't wear sunscreen, but our skin is actually protective, the melanin that we have. But at the same time, you don't really absorb the sunlight and have that natural process happen where you produce a lot of vitamin D. Vitamin D is naturally produced in the skin when you absorb sunlight. So a lot of people of color are actually vitamin deficient, whether or not they know it, which can lead to other issues down the road, because vitamin D is very vital, not only in your bone health, but your immune system. So, I just recommend, especially if you're a person of color, anybody, but if you're a person of color, take your daily vitamin. They don't have to think about it. But I say it protects against heart disease. That's the bottom line.
So what about taking hormone replacement? Is it harmful?
So it depends on the amounts, the reasoning, your body's sensitivity and tolerance to it. It's something called dose dependency on efficacy that hormone replacement therapy can have. By that, I mean, you have people who take hormones because they want to change their body a little bit more dramatically. You have people who take hormones because they're trying to seek a gender change, if you will. They're trying to, have more testosterone and the effects of testosterone, whether it's facial hair, the musculature that comes from the testosterone and androgen, you name it. So people will take testosterone for that purpose. You have people that take testosterone or estrogen simply because their sex organs, their testicles or their ovaries, they're not producing the same amounts that they normally should, whether it's from natural causes, secondary causes where they were producing it normally at first and they go through something called, something like menopause in women, or in men, they just naturally lose their testosterone production, or be from childbirth, they weren't producing the right amount at all. Their organs were never really functioning as normal. So that's called primary. That's a primary issue with the organs, in which case they take hormone replacement therapy. Those are two different pictures. And I'll say if you're taking it for the first picture, it's when you're probably at more of a risk for negative complications. Because specifically, I'll touch on testosterone the most. Testosterone, again, builds muscle, it promotes growth, and people think about muscle as just the muscle that you have on your arms, your back, your legs, but a lot of people fail to realize your heart is actually a muscle. Your heart's a muscle. So when you take testosterone, you're not only building those muscles that you want to look good with in the gym, your heart's getting real thick over time. Mm-hmm. I took care of this is last year in the CCU, the cardiac intensive care unit here at Penn. I took care of I believe he was 24 years old, young guy, but he was trying to be a bodybuilder. So he was taking hormones, testosterone, to try to really, increase his pump, if you will. And he ended up with heart failure, like end stage heart failure, cardiogenic shock, like on the brink of death, on life support, because his heart was just so thick and was failing. He couldn't feel adequately, couldn't squeeze adequately. So it's something to be mindful of. Now, if you remember, I said earlier in the talk that estrogen was protective for women, right? So when women go through menopause, they have different changes in the body that naturally occur. And a lot of times, it's recommended by their provider, if they want to, they can take estrogen to help their body kind of regain some of those functions, whether it's libido, whether it's vaginal drive, whether it's you name it. It's something that we actually do prescribe estrogen for, to help kind of regain those functions, and especially in the sexual organs. But again, taking hormones is not without risk, because if you take too much estrogen, while it can be protective for the heart, it can and help restore those functions, it can also predispose you to overgrowth of cells. Estrogen causes growth of cells in those areas. That's why if you have too much estrogen, take too much estrogen replacement therapy, you can predispose yourself to uterine cancer, breast cancer, endometrial cancer. So it's always a balance. You just don't want something called homeostasis. You want your body to be at an even playing field. You don't want to rock the boat too much. Naturally, you're going to lose some of your hormones, just the way, part of the aging process, both men and women. You take hormone replacement therapy, but do it under guidance of a physician, of a trained expert, specifically an endocrinologist, one who specializes in endocrine disorders and stuff like hormones, where they can guide your therapy and track your blood levels to make sure you're in a safe place, not taking too much where you're in a dangerous place and can cause negative implications.
Thank you so very much. There was a question, and they wanted to know. Oh, I'm going to have to read it again. So, but in the meantime, Is there such a thing as a heart healthy diet?
Yes, there is actually. So a heart healthy diet definitely would promote the Mediterranean diet as a heart healthy diet. Any diet that's high in fruits and vegetables, whole grains, and one that's low in salts, low in saturated fats. You know, you read the food labels, anything that says trans across it, you want to second guess putting that in your body, whether it's trans saturated fats, you know, you name it. If it says trans in front of it, you know, ask questions, do some research. But yeah, Mediterranean diet is something that's definitely probably the most promoted. And actually, I would say not most, probably second most promoted. The top number one heart healthy diet is actually a plant-based diet. Plant-based diet meaning, you know, limiting, really just centering everything around plant-based products. It's hard because folks that follow plant-based diets, you still need protein, right? You still need protein to, you know, supplement natural body functions and structure. And with that, you have to make sure you take your protein supplements if you're not going to ingest, you know, natural proteins from meats, fishes, you name it, or even nuts. But plant-based diets in general are probably the most heart healthy diets you can have. There's also diets out there specific for different conditions. So something called a DASH diet, which helps basically folks that have high blood pressure or hypertension. It's a way to, you know, moderate the salt intake in your diet. Yeah, there's different diets out there, but I would say probably the two most promoted as the healthiest ones for heart health overall would be the plant-based diet and the Mediterranean diet.
Oh, thank you so much. And I see Sister Ellen has joined us. Did you have any comments on that you want to share with us about nutrition, Sister Ellen?
Hello, everyone. And so I will echo Dr. Amazi. Dr. Amazi, thank you so much for joining us on such short notice. But yes, he mentioned those whole grains, and of course, those are important for heart health. As we know, whole grains help lower our total cholesterol, and we know that needs to be under 200 grams per deciliter. And so there's good cholesterol and bad cholesterol, and we want to focus on the good cholesterol and maintain healthy levels as it relates to our LDL and our VLDL as well. And so those things are like oatmeal, whole grain bread, quinoa, barley, rye, oats, wheat. Those things are whole grain options. But then, you know, you also can have your regular snacks, but there are also whole grain options for those. So they have whole grain goldfish, whole grain animal crackers. So any opportunity that you have to include infused whole grains, please do so. Whole grain tortilla chips, whole grain taco shells. If it's made up out of grain, you have an opportunity to make it whole. And if you're, you know, not ready to jump right into brown rice, you know, I want to encourage you to try wild rice because it is a whole grain as well. Now, jasmine rice is not a whole grain rice, neither is yellow rice. And so let's just, you know, not get crazy with that. But anywho, so that's super important. And Dr. Mazzi also talked about low sodium. And so you want to make certain that you do compare that food label. And if you want a low sodium item, it needs to be under 140 milligrams per serving. That's how we know it's a low sodium item. And then also with those protein options, the vegetarian option is option and the plant-based option is option. But for those of you who are still consuming meat, you want to make certain that you choose the leanest meat possible. And like we always say here, the National Baptist, the fewer the feet, the leaner the meat. And so instead of pork, I encourage you to try turkey. Instead of chicken, instead of beef, I encourage you to try chicken. If you are doing chicken, it needs to be white meat instead of dark meat because that is lower in saturated fat. And then of course, fish as opposed to turkey. And if you are doing fish, we want to encourage the fatty fish. So the mackerel, the salmon, the trout, the tuna, and those healthy nuts, those almonds, the walnuts, nuts and seeds, those types of things. And if you're consuming nuts or snacking on nuts, make certain they're unsalted.
Thank you so much. Well, we've covered so much, Dr. Mazzi. You've been very knowledgeable and you've shared so much of it with us. Is there anything else you'd like to share with us today?
Thank you. First of all, thank you. I really appreciate that. And again, it's a pleasure, my pleasure to be here. I think, the one thing I want to make sure I emphasize, kind of going back to one of the very first questions you posed, is being mindful of your body. A lot of times you go to the hospitals, or even if you just go to the clinic and see your doctor, you may say you feel like something's wrong, and it may be like, oh, that's not a big deal. That's not something that you should be worried about. You know your body the best. You know your body the best in terms of when everything's good and normal. And you know when things are not, whether it's a symptom that you've been told you should be concerned about or something you've been told you should ignore. You know if something's not normal for you. So particularly in women, as we're talking about women's heart health, if you feel like something's off, go get it checked out. Don't let anybody tell you you're being a hypochondriac, or, you're being, there's anxiety. Number one thing that a bad doctor will do, especially when it comes to heart disease, is tell you what you're experiencing is related to anxiety. Don't worry about it. Take this SSRI antidepressant. No, because again, women have atypical presentations. Those heart flutters you have, those palpitations you have, could be what's called, again, your anginal equivalent, your equivalent of what it means when your heart, the oxygen supply to your heart muscle is low. So you may need a little bit of a workup, some studies done to see if it's concerning enough for you to get your arteries checked out. Make sure you're not having many heart attacks, And one thing I wanted to make sure, I want to go back and make sure I ingrained after this talk, is the things you need to look out for. Symptoms that come about when you exert yourself with exertional activity, whether it's working out, climbing steps, lifting things, you exert yourself. Or actually, I forgot to mention this earlier, but if symptoms are brought about by emotional stress, if you have emotional stress and it brings about chest pain, palpitations, sweating, shortness of breath, you name it, that fits the bucket of, again, angina. If it gets better with rest or removal of that stress, or technically nitroglycerin, which is a medication that folks don't typically have just sitting around the house, but if you take the nitroglycerin and it relieves whatever symptom you're having, that's concerning. And then 3, again, is it chest pain or not? Chest pain is like, the number one thing you need to be worried about. But if it's classic left side chest pain, or chest pain in general, and kind of fits in those other 2 buckets, you need to be concerned and definitely go and sit back or go sit down with your doctor and have a conversation about potential tests you need. Can't emphasize that enough. You know your body, when things aren't right, feel like something's not right, just bring it to your doctor's attention. Don't throw it off. People have silent heart attacks all the time. People die in their sleep. I mean, heart disease is very real. Again, it's number 1 killer, both men and women, and it's something that we as a people really need to get a grasp on and take seriously, and not ignore in our community.
Okay, thank you so much. There are some questions that are in the chat for you. One says, if your family does not have a history of heart disease, what is the percentage of your children to have heart disease if there's no family history?
It's hard to say, because it's not really, it doesn't fall, it's genetic. We have genetic predisposition to heart disease, but it doesn't fall in the bucket of inheritance the way like certain inherited disorders fall in, where like you have a certain gene on a certain chromosome that if your mom has it, or if your dad has it, then you're definitely going to have it, or you have a 50% chance of having it, or whatnot. It doesn't really work like that with heart disease. It's multifactorial, if you will. But it is known, again, that's out there, that if you have a relative, family history, that had some heart disease, particularly atherosclerosis, like they had coronary disease, they had a heart attack prematurely. Premature is defined as before the age of 55, 60 to 55, but really, if they had a heart attack before the age of 55, you are likely to have a higher chance of having heart disease. Because in that sense, it's because you have more genetic predisposition, something about your genes predispose you to having, whether, atherosclerotic risk factors, whether it's high cholesterol, whether it's just naturally more plaque forming arteries, blockages in those arteries, you name it. That's defined as premature cardiovascular disease in a family member, first degree family member, that is. You have a higher chance of having heart disease yourself in general. Now, I say premature because once we get past the ages of 60, 65, 70, I mean, life is life. You know what I'm saying? People's bodies over time, that's where your dietary choices, your lifestyle choices over time catch up with people. So if your father, your brother, your sister had a heart attack at 70, 75, 80, that doesn't mean you have necessarily genetic predisposition. You have a higher chance of having it at a younger age or just in general. But premature heart disease in the first degree relative, first degree family member is where you want to have concern about having a higher percentage. I can't put a number on it. There's no like specific percentage, but you have a higher risk.
Okay, thank you. And there's another question that says, how reliable is the home heart monitor devices that are advertised as methods of monitoring your heart condition?
And this will be our last question. If Dr. Sakura has more time, we'll get some more afterwards, but we're going to move on after this question.
So the home heart monitors, I'm not too familiar with them. I've actually heard of them. In some patients, we particularly don't use them at our practice institution here. At the VA, though, I work at the VA hospital here as well in Philadelphia, and we do use them. They're pretty accurate for the most part. A lot of them are operator dependent, obviously. I mean, it's a device. So a lot of it's dependent upon how you're taking your vitals, when you're taking the vitals, the condition you're in when you're taking them. Like if you just ran up a flight of steps and your blood pressure is 200/80, that's different than you sitting down at rest and a blood pressure 280 and your heart rate being, high. Different steps can be taken in different scenarios based off of context. So it depends on the guidance that you're given and the instruction you're given on how to use the home heart monitors. But for sure, the rhythms, the rhythm monitor, especially if you have a heart rhythm condition or an arrhythmia, again, going back to like AFib, atrial flutter, atrial tachycardia, some type of arrhythmia, or even bradycardia. Some folks, rather than having a pacemaker implanted because they need a device that's internal, our home monitor can help serve as a conduit between the patient themselves and their provider, so they can get real-time information about what their heart rhythm's doing, what their vitals look like. So, all in all, it's a good tool. It can be accurate, but it just depends on how you use it and making sure that you use it appropriately.
Thank you so very much. We appreciate you taking up so much time with us and answering our questions. It's been some very good information. And I'm sure that we are going to take it to heart and use it.
Take it to heart. No pun intended. That was good.
Take it to heart and use it. Dr. Minor, back to you.
And Dr. Sakura, if you just by chance have a few more minutes at the end, we know you got to get up early and going, but if you're able to hang around, we got a bunch more questions that people have asked. But but if not, we do understand. But we appreciate you wholeheartedly, and we wish you all the best. And we're gonna ask the Lord to bless you real good, so you can win some of these awards and stuff, and we can read about some of the great things you do. And when we see you on TV and all these kind of things, we say we knew you win. Is that all right?
That's perfectly fine. I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you again, Sister Bettina. All right, y'all. Look, we want to thank you all, and we want to remind everyone again about our collaboration with the All of Us Research Program. One of the things they're looking at is things like this, that we look at how, what are the things that make us healthy? What are the things that make us not so healthy, those traits? So again, it's another reason why you should take time out now. You should go and find out more information about the All of Us Research Program. We need more people of color involved. It's amazing that a lot of the drugs and procedures, things that are done, are based upon white males. Amen. And we're talking about women in heart health. So a black woman is neither male nor white. So we strongly encourage you to go to joinallofus.org/NBCUSA. If you're already enrolled, share with somebody else. This is just vitally important. for us to be a part of, to make a difference. We can make a difference for something here. My hope that we can make a difference, and that in my lifetime, I can see a cure for sickle cell. But to go to joinallofus.org/NBCUSA. All right, everybody. Now it's time for our monthly Let's Move National Baptist Update. So live from Washington, D.C., let's hear from my NBCUSA movement guru, Sister Nettie Johnson. Sister Nettie, it's yours.
Hello. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Dr. Miner, and thank you so much, Dr. Shakura and Sister Bettina, for that wonderful sharing. The number of questions that we have, I think it shows, the interest and the importance that we all do realize are related around heart health for all and heart health for women. Let me just really quickly say this is really near and dear to me as well. Both of my parents passed away from heart disease. My father died in his sleep, like Dr. Shakura mentioned. Sometimes people can have that. My mother also had conditions, and I was diagnosed with a heart condition in my early 20s. So there's that genetic factor that I just give God all the glory. It's part of the reason why I do a heart healthy diet and exercise regularly and get my checkups and all of that. So to God be the glory. Now my risks are low, partially because of the exercise and some of those lifestyle behaviors. And it is very well documented that if we are active, that can help reduce the risks of developing cardiovascular disease, as well as decrease mortality rates from it. And he mentioned that being sedentary is actually a risk factor. So we just want to thank God for all of those that are members of Let's Move National Baptist that are taking steps to move regularly, to move consistently. Know that you're doing something that is good for your heart. With that said, if we do have any of, I don't know if we have slides available. If we do, we want to welcome the number of new members that have joined us recently. Y'all, again, to God be the glory. Every single week, we have more and more people joining the ranks of saying, yes, we are going to move for our health. And we encourage you to continue to share with others. Let them know that they can go to letsmovenbc.com and they can join this free program that can help them to take strides for their health. What some of the things that we're hearing from some of our members really quickly, we have a couple of praise reports. For example, let's see, looking at some of these, if we can bring them up, things like, I'm so grateful. Oh, like I can see that, that's so small. Somebody said, I'm so grateful to move. This is Sister Jacqueline Harris. She says she set a goal for 500 calories a day and she's walking daily, even when in that weather, when weather allows her to do so up there in the Pacific Northwest. Sister Butler says her dog keeps her moving because she has to walk often. Sister Harris says she feels so much better when she moves. It's affecting her knee pain, and she's finding compound benefit because she's also finding her appetite is less, and that's helping her. Sister Meriwether says she is grateful for the strength that her body has. To God be the glory for the activity of her limbs. And even Sister Sims, who recently shared that although she broke her leg and she's not back up to her full activities, her physical therapist approved her walking. We do want to make sure we're checking in with our medical providers, right? And she was able to participate in a Martin Luther King walk. And she said it was such a blessing. Y'all, we love hearing these great comments about how you are seeing benefit from the steps that you are taking. So praise God and keep it going. Just a couple of other things. We want to encourage you all to continue to build into your wellness workbook. Remember, this is new for 2023, and you are actually, by taking the information that we send out in our multiple emails that come out per month, you're adding in and you are creating your personalized path to physical fitness. The things that we're adding in this month so far is we want you to make sure that you're doing your monthly tracking. There is a copy of that in the workbook, and that is coming out from the emails for you to put in there. Y'all, the information that you are recording about what you're doing, about your movement is golden. Feedback, data is a driver, and that feedback can help you to determine what's working, what's not working, and more importantly, it can help us to track progress. Because again, we're not looking for perfection, we're looking for progress, and we're creating a track record of God's blessings as we do more. So remember to track for yourself And remember to turn that in because it gets you in the drawing. And we're going to give away two $100 gift cards in just a second. The other two things that I want to let everyone be alerted of is that we are having a masterclass coming up. Remember, this year we're pushing with Let's Move National Baptist to increase enrollments and to increase the impact that individuals that are in the program are receiving. We want to see the needle move. So we're going to start addressing some of the issues that are challenges or barriers of success. And one of those has to do with goals. Y'all, 80% of the folk that set goals at the beginning of the year to do better in some area of their life, 80% of them folks have given up by now, right? So if you are someone who maybe has a challenge with setting goals that are meaningful, that are achievable, and that take you towards where God wants you to be, and this can be related to diet, exercise, finances, relationship, developing spiritual disciplines, we're going to cover some tactics and strategies that can help you to create good godly goals that you can actually stick to. So please do register for that. There was a link in your email. I'll drop them in the chat after this update as well. We would love to have you. This class is being offered for free to members of Let's Move National Baptist. So please do mark your calendars and plan to attend. And then the last thing is we will also have another open hour. Again, those are our opportunities for us to come together, ask questions, get support, celebrate one another, have accountability. It's just a time for us to connect virtually to have the support that we need to continue doing this good temple care. With all of that said, we're getting to giving away not one, but two $100 gift cards. And these are for individuals that did submit their monthly tracking reports. And they have to also be on the call, and we drew randomly from them. So Dr. Minor, I checked before, and I hope they're still with us. The first winner of a $100 gift card is Adrian Butler. Adrian Butler. Woo! Are you on? Are we on?
Yes. Yes. Hello.
Congratulations.
Butler,
Thank
congratulations.
you.
Yes.
Oh.
All right, so come on. All right, so I know you're so excited. Where you from? Your church, your pastor, your firstborn? Let us know something about here,
Okay. I'm from Memphis, Tennessee. My church is Ascension Missionary Baptist Church. Pastor is Reverend Willie Williams Jr. And I'm just excited.
All right, from Memphis. Okay. All
We are so excited for you. Congratulations, and keep up that great temple care. That is wonderful.
All right.
Thank
And since
Thank
then, we have our contact information, correct?
Yes, I do have your contact information. Look for an email from me tonight so that we can get that.
And Sister Butler, we'll get on top of it and get that taken care of for you. Congratulations.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
All right.
All righty. And let's see if the second person that we pulled is on. The second person is LaJuan Harris. LaJuan Harris, are you on? Let me see. We're on.
I said Jacqueline Harris.
Yeah, LaJuan. The last name isn't showing up on here, but the last name is. LaJuan, can you unmute?
Oh, it's LaJuan. Okay, just LaJuan.
Yeah, LaJuan.
Hi, good evening.
Hello.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
Hi.
congratulations.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
All right,
This
wait.
is a surprise, a shock, and all that.
All right. So where are you from? Where's your church? And all that?
I'm originally from Baton Rouge, Louisiana,
Oh.
but I live in Dallas. I've been in Dallas over 20 years, and I'm a member of the Concord Baptist Church. Well, they call it Concord Church now. My pastor is Brian Carter.
Okay.
The founding pastor was E.K. Bailey. A lot of people are familiar with Pastor Bailey. And I'm new to the move. I've heard about it a lot, and I was communicating and chatting with Sister Nettie, and she got me kind of inspired. She always inspires me with all the work for healthy, more fit life. And I just decided to go online immediately and sign up.
Wonderful. All right. Congratulations. Congratulations, Sister LaJuan. All right. And we have a contact information, correct?
Definitely do. So congratulations to you both. And y'all, we're doing this thing. We'll have another opportunity next month. Just make sure that you're moving that you're tracking and you're sharing that information so that we can celebrate with you, we can support you in taking these steps for your health.
All right, Sister Nettie, thank you. And look, for all y'all that are watching on social media, we just ask you to come on and join Let's Move, and then come on and be a part of what we're doing on Zoom. And if you'd like to join us on Zoom, it's very simple. All you have to do is email us, info@hopenbc.com, info@hopenbc.com, and we will get you lined up. She put in the chat, letsmovenbc.com. And since I'm also holding down our social media, I'm going to put that in here, www.letsmovenbc.com. And the wonderful thing about this is that once I put in this one chat, it goes in about 7 different places. So thank God for technology. Again, thanks, Sister Ned. Enjoy your trip there in DC and represent your National Baptist Convention USA Incorporated.
Thank you.
All right, now it is National Black HIV/AIDS Day in America, and we'll hear some updates from that and from on mental health from Sister Bettina. She's coming back to line us up, and folks, so Sister Bettina comes back through. We're gonna wow, Dr. Shakura is still on, so we'll be able to answer some more questions, some other things here, and we're going to Sister Bettina. You're up again.
Hello again, everybody. As the pastor said, today is the National Black HIV/AIDS Awareness Day, and we celebrate the progress we have in HIV prevention. We want to reduce HIV stigma, and we want to encourage everybody to get their HIV test, know their status, and if needed, get treatment. This year's theme is "We are in this together," and it emphasizes the role that we all have in ending HIV, which leads me to talking about the role of the faith community in HIV prevention. For over 30 years, this has been my ministry, and I've been working to tear down the stigma of talking about sex and sexuality in the church, because it prevents those of us of faith from getting more actively involved in HIV prevention. Unfortunately, it's been all too easy for us to pretend that we don't see the results of sexual activity in our young people, our young unwed mothers as they walk down our aisles, holding their babies in their arms or holding their hand. Or, for example, Brother Jones as he flits from woman to woman in the choir stand or on the usher board, or Sister Brown as she dates 4 men just to pay the rent and to put food on her table. So today I'm saying to you that we must acknowledge that from the choir stand to the back door, that sexual behavior is in our churches. And we must stop being a part of the problem and become a part of the solution. Dr. Terry Williams Powell has identified 5 ways that some Black churches are fighting to stop the spread of HIV. And as I go through those 5, I hope that you'll be able to identify some that you may be able to do, even if it's just one that you would be able to do in your church to begin to help stop the spread of HIV. One of them is hosting HIV screening events. And the CDC recommends that teens and adults, and even our grandparents, should be tested at least once a year. Almost 1 in 7 HIV positive people don't even know that they're HIV positive. And this causes a problem because it allows them to be able to pass the virus on to someone else. So Black churches that host HIV screenings help to ensure that people know what their status is, which is critical. Number 2 is we want to begin to frame HIV prevention as a social justice issue. In 2013, the Black Church and HIV, the Social Justice Imperative, was released by the NAACP. This imperative recruited faith leaders to be agents of change and to take action to stop social injustices that have led to the unequal impact that HIV has in the Black community. This manual is now available to help to educate and support Black clergy and other Black leaders who want to address HIV. Third is that we want to educate faith leaders and their congregations. a lot of Black churches have formed partnerships with HIV or other nonprofit agencies who provide HIV prevention and treatment services. And through that, they've been able to come into the congregation and to talk about it. They've been able to assist our faith leaders in preparing HIV-related sermons and to help HIV/AIDS ministries and help them to organize those and to keep resources for those. So that's another thing that you can do. Then you can partner with researchers. Black churches have partnered with researchers to assess church capacity and to implement faith-based HIV programs. The collaborative efforts have been well documented and have demonstrated that Black churches have various levels of readiness to engage in HIV prevention. These findings are clear that although not all churches will be able to do the same thing, all churches can do something. In 5, it says, serving as a support network for high-risk groups. And many of our people who have substance abuse issues, or as well as the members of our LGBTQI community are at high risk, but they're afraid to come to our churches because they don't want to be ostracized, although they understand and believe in the power and that faith and the support of the church can do for them. But they want to be in a church that's accepting and that's loving. So again, learning about all you can about HIV and being able to provide that support is critical. And finally, from yours truly, I want you to please understand and to accept that we are all ultimately responsible for our own sexual well-being. And it is up to us to get tested, and not only to get tested, but to go back and get the results and to know our status. If you want to have more detailed information about HIV, please feel free to contact us. You will find the contact information on our website, and we'll be happy to answer your questions or to connect you to a credible local resource. And then Dr. Minor mentioned that I would give you an update about our mental health first aid classes. Our mental health first aid instructor, Sister Anita Billsworthy, is completing her training this week. And we have talked and we are planning to try to have training set up at no later than the first week in March so that we can move forward with that. And Sister Nettie said that word free. You find that these sessions are free, and it's something that we at National Baptist Hope try to do as often as possible, is to provide you with free resources that will help you to have a healthier lifestyle. Back to you, Pastor.
All right. We're moving up with speed and accuracy. Okay, there we go. All right. We ain't got big time yet. Duke and our producers and our directors, we're trying to make it do as much as we can. I'm getting my exercise in doing this. All right. And look, I just want to say again, for National Black HIV/AIDS Day, Sunday was National Black HIV/AIDS Sunday. I know that for many of us, we in the Black church have issues with that. But always remember that Jesus was loving. He loved everybody. We may have issues with people's lifestyle, things they do, but we need to love people. And this HIV/AIDS is a problem in our Black community. It's there, and we need to be aware of it and do everything that we can to share information about it. At our church, when we share information about HIV/AIDS, a lot of other information gets thrown away. But on that Sunday, that information goes home. So let's do what we can to share. And as Sister Bettina said, let's not be part of the problem. Let's be part of the solution, NBCUSA Nation. All right. Thanks, Sister Bettina. All right. Coming up, March, the first Sunday in March is NBCUSA Hope American Kidney Fund Kidney Sunday. And I hope that you'll share some information about kidney health. And if you'd like to have some information about kidney health or any of our other health services, just email us at info@hopenbc.com. info@hopenbc.com. You can go out to our website. We're working on the website to provide more information. We had to change servers and everything, but just bear with us. And we're going to, over the next year, have it interactive. So we have our links back up and provide you even more information. Woo! We've covered a lot this evening, y'all. I say it every week, don't I? But the best part is coming now. We want to hear from each one of you. And it's our question and answer session. We're going to take a few questions for the people that were on social media to get their questions answered. And thank you. We have a real strong social media presence tonight. Thank you all for coming and being a part of it. So we're going to answer those questions first, and at some point we're going to have to cut off, and we'll wrap up with our wind down on Zoom. Let's not forget our February updates. Amen. For our Red Sunday, the third Sunday in June, third Sunday in January is right behind me. And let's make sure we can remember this American Heart Association Heart Month, and today is National Black HIV/AIDS Day. Let's do that. All right. And of course, you can always download the list of our annual health services from our website. You find additional information when you go to HOPENBC.com, and we also have connections to our social media. Every day we have our inspirational verse of the day. We put posts about our the health services. We've been sharing daily about people from all across the country, our pictures about what we're doing at the All of Us Research Program, and other good information. So if you haven't liked our National Baptist Convention USA Incorporated HOPE Facebook page, do so today. Now next month, which will be the first Tuesday, March 7th, we're going to talk about the National Cholesterol Cancer Awareness Month, National Nutrition Month. I know Sister Ellen is already on cloud 9. That's just her. That's her. Her lane. And we're gonna do Taste Test Sunday overview, third Sunday March, where we're gonna talk about some exciting things that you can prepare that taste good and are good for you. All right. And don't forget, you can also join us on social media with our Twitter feed, @Hope_NBCUSA, our YouTube channel, NBCUSA Hope, and we're also on Instagram. And so just come in and join up with us. And if you'd like to enroll in our health ministry training, email info@hopenbc.com, info@hopenbc.com, or call 901-603-0762, 901-603-0762. We appreciate your feedback again. Make sure, take a moment to figure out the survey. The reason why we come with some of the speakers and things we do has been because of the feedback that you've given us. As my late godfather always reminded me, and I remind you all, the biggest room there is the room for improvement. And we can all stand to improve. Okay? All right. I think we're going to go in and get a few questions out the way. All right, let's see. Dr. Shakura, you ready for a few more questions, Dr. Shakura? And Sister Ellen, I think there may be a question for you too here. All right.
Yes, absolutely.
All right, let's bring him up. All right, so Sister Ellen, I don't see that. So, all right, there we go. All right, so that's Shakira. It says, what effect do inhalers cause upon heart and arteries?
It's actually a great question.
Right.
Yeah, believe it or not, the two can be connected. So inhalers, in particular, you might have heard of like albuterol. People take that commonly for asthma.
Yeah.
But inhalers, because of the receptor that type of medication within the inhaler acts on, it actually, that receptor itself is not limited to the lungs.
Oh.
That receptor is present in different cells that may be present within the heart as well. And kind of not taking you to biochemistry, taking you down to the granular level. Basically, just know that inhalers themselves, when you take them, they can speed up your heart. They can increase your heart rate. If you're somebody that has one of those arrhythmias that we talked about earlier in the talk, like AFib, a flutter, any abnormal heart rhythm, you can precipitate that heart rhythm going into a very at a very fast pace if you take your inhaler too much. So you definitely want to use your inhaler as prescribed. And usually they space it out. Your typical prescription you'll get from your provider, whoever's prescribing your inhaler, will say use it as needed every 4 hours or every 6 hours, no more than 4 times a day. Typically stuff like that. So that's one way it can affect your heart health.
Okay. All right. Sister, I had a question here. They talk about the salads, but somebody said they're addicted to ranch dressing. Unmute yourself there, Sister Ellen.
Okay, so what's the question? So there's addicted ranch dressing.
I think the question is that are they still good if they're eating a salad, but they drown it in ranch dressing?
Okay, well, so the ranch dressing is typically higher in saturated fats. If you would just have to have ranch dressing, I would either one recommend that you choose the low fat ranch dressing, and the low fat ranch dressing that's the least that has the least amount of sodium. Okay, and then also you can also make ranch dressing, a low fat ranch dressing from home from scratch by yourselves. There are low fat ranch dressing recipes that are better than the ones that are in the store. But if you have to choose a salad dressing to go on your salad and your goal is a healthier salad, I would recommend a red wine vinegar based dressing or a olive oil based dressing, that type of thing. So it's all about decisions. It's just all about decisions. So a low fat option, a low sodium option for the ranch, make it yourself. But I would recommend a vinaigrette based dressing for all salads.
Okay. Well, we know in a Black America now, ranch is the official dressing on everything. I've seen people put drowned pizza in ranch dressing.
Well, perhaps that's why we're 30% more likely to have heart disease.
Whoa. Great entree there. All right. I think that's Shakura. Is he? Oh yeah, he's still with us. Okay, that's Shakira. All right.
Yes.
So these, so wow. Okay. So are these diets we've been talking about? This is another from social media. Are they good for people in renal failure and on dialysis?
Yes, I will say for the most part, they are. They are, especially the plant-based diet. The plant-based diet you really can't go wrong with unless the only scenario I can think of in which the plant-based diet you need to be careful with is if you're taking a medication called warfarin or Coumadin is another name for it, because eating green leafy vegetables, really any foods that are high in vitamin K, can offset the effect of that medication. So we actually have a special diet for those patients taking that medication. But otherwise, there's nothing about a plant-based diet, Mediterranean diet, that is bad for people on dialysis. I will say this though, the caveat: people who are on dialysis, they typically have what's called a renal diet that's promoted for them. And those diets are typically, they have their amounts of certain electrolytes moderated in the food choices, because your kidneys are what naturally filter your body's magnesium, potassium, phosphorus. So there's certain foods that have higher concentrations of that, and your kidneys don't function normally. Your what filters your blood is not functioning normally. You can't filter out those electrolytes, and this can build up to toxic levels. So there are particular diets called renal diets that will oftentimes be prescribed to patients who are on dialysis. It really is on a case-by-case basis. You should talk to your provider, whoever's managing your kidney care, particularly about that.
Okay. And Sister Ellen, let's add that to our list of things we talk about next month. I know the folks that are going to dialysis supposed to know this, but I'm sure that caregivers might not always know what they're supposed to be on. So I think it's important for the caregivers and the family to know, because they'll say, well, doc said I can eat or drink whatever I want to. So
right. Yeah. Want to speak with a renal registered dietitian on that piece, especially to monitor your levels of phosphorus, potassium, sodium. A lot of times they're on a fluid restriction, and then also, calcium as well. I think I said that already, but especially that phosphorus, since it's in so many cold drinks and we say cold drink, some people say soda from Louisiana. So it just it just depends. But yeah, absolutely. Dr. Mazzi is right on this one. Yes, very much so.
All right, some people ask a personal question. They want to know, how can they encourage more of their young people in their churches to become doctors? Just because it's not really directly related to your thing, but I guess they see you relatively young. So, what words of encouragement, things you can say that they can just get some more to, get involved in the field?
Yeah, I would say, just kind of encourage the youth early on. Tell them it's something they can be, normalize it, because a lot of times kids don't see that in our communities, and they think, their options or their ways to become something great or do something amazing career wise is going to the NFL, going to the NBA, becoming a rapper, becoming some type of famous, musical artist. Because the music industry, the sports industry is where you see the highest concentration of successful Black individuals that's publicized on the general media. That's what they see as soon as they open their phone or turn on the TV or you name it. But you got to normalize the image of a Black doctor. And I'm not saying that's an easy thing to do, because I never even saw a Black doctor until I went to medical school. And I went to Howard, where every doctor was Black. So I was at Howard University College of Medicine, where it was kind of the opposite of what the real world looks like. But if you can get your hand on a Black doctor that you can bring to talk to the kids, that you can bring for the kids to shadow and follow around and spend a day with, to kind of build that exposure up so they can envision, a possibility of them potentially doing that, then at least it provides it as a real attainable type of thing they can pursue. And then also encourage and support their interests, especially in the sciences. If you see your child or somebody in the community who's a youth has proclivity towards the sciences, they're good at math, they're good at, anything science related, try to help foster that and get them involved in activities that will keep, that interest alive and thriving, because all of that work put in is an investment early on that translates to them being able to pursue medicine a little bit more seriously and even more easily, telling themselves that they can do it too. Some people think it's just too hard and it just discourages them before they even try, not knowing that this isn't, it's not easy, but it takes just discipline and you saying, I'm going to do this, and you do it.
And you're proof positive it can be done.
Absolutely. All right. That's why I try to talk to as many kids as possible.
All right, y'all heard this. So y'all take this. If y'all that are watching in the National Baptist Convention across, some of y'all be watching this later, feel free to edit this part out and have it for your career day to encourage them. Do that. All right, we just have one more question. It says, are people with pacemakers more apt to have a heart attack?
That's a great question. Believe it or not, the two, they don't really go hand in hand, but they do indirectly, simply because if you have actually, no, let me take that back. So a pacemaker is different than an ICD. So an ICD is the general blanket term for intracardiac device, meaning you have a device with a generator and there's leads that are tracking down into your heart to perform some function. There's two different types of intracardiac devices you can have. One is a pacemaker. Another is a intracardiac defibrillator, or an ICD, a defibrillator. And those are two different functions you can have from a device. One device can have either function or it can have both functions. If you have a device that's simply a pacemaker that's meant to basically provide pacing to your heart because you have issues with the electrical wiring in your heart, that doesn't necessarily put you at higher risk for a heart attack. Doesn't mean you have higher risk, because that is a completely separate issue. Within the heart, I like to break it down for my patients. You have valves, you have your electrical wiring, you have your pumps, your fuel supply, which are the coronary arteries that supply blood to the heart muscle. And then you have the pump itself. So the electrical wiring problem is why you would have a pacemaker put in. Having a heart attack, you typically have a heart attack when you have an issue with the pipes, the fuel supply, the coronary arteries. And the two are separate in that instance. Now, if you have a device that's an ICD, meaning it's a defibrillator, defibrillator itself may be associated with somebody who has a higher risk for a heart attack, because the reasons why you would have a defibrillator in is to shock your heart back into normal rhythm, a life-saving shock. If your heart goes into a dangerous rhythm that could kill you. I don't know if you all have heard of AEDs, or automated electronic defibrillators that you have hanging in churches, you have them in grocery stores, you have them on buses and hospitals, I mean, you name it. If you look in the wall, a lot of people, you probably just walk past it every day, you may not even notice it, but an AED hangs on the walls of many public places. That's where if somebody codes, falls out, have cardiac arrest, you put the pads on them, you can deliver an external shock if it's advised, if it's a rhythm that can be shocked, to help get their heart into a normal rhythm and potentially restart it in a way that can save their life. That's external shocking. A defibrillator is a function that's added to one of those devices where it can shock your heart internally and save your life. And it's a device that's always reading your heart rhythm and can pick up when your heart goes into one of those abnormal rhythms. Inherently, if somebody has an ICD, like a defibrillator in place, they probably have some type of disease, whether it's coronary disease or something that some risk factor for coronary disease that puts them at a high risk of having a heart attack in general. So it's indirect, but simply put, a pacemaker, something that's just pacing your heart, I wouldn't say that necessarily increases your risk for having a heart attack.
Okay. All right. That concludes our question, but I know that Sister Carrie Ash, she asked a question we always get asked. About how we can get inexpensive AEDs for our churches. Well, I think as they become more and more demand because of what happened to the football player at Buffalo, I think as more of them come out, the price will come down. But you don't want to go out in the black market and try to get something that says AED on Amazon. It may not work. So you pay for what you get and do that. All right.
10 out of 10, don't recommend that.
No, don't recommend it. And I will say on a personal note, I did what you said, Doc. I didn't feel good one night. I did a baptism. I felt someone wasn't right with me. I went to the ER, and I got to the ER. I found out I was having a heart attack. And
wow.
And so when I went there, so it wasn't any blocked arteries. I had what they call a misfire, whatever I can explain what it was.
Okay.
And so fortunately, it wasn't that traumatic on my body, but it was a traumatic experience. Somebody you're having a heart attack, so you think the worst thing. So I can tell y'all, you pastors, just watch your stress, get some rest. Tomorrow's my day off, because even the person try to do the best they can, which I try to do the best they can, because I don't want my wife to get rich too soon. Out of the best I could, I had a heart attack. Okay. All right, but thank you, that's Shakura. We're gonna let you roll out. We thank you, Sister Ellen. You're gonna be live in effect next month, and everybody. And let me do my little wrap-ups for the night. Okay, all right. This concludes our Q&A period, and we appreciate all the tireless work of our team. Oh man, our team is just so awesome. I don't know what to say about our team. Dr. Desi Levy, our co-PI for our all of us research program, Sister Lottie Minor, our project director, Sister Bettina Campbell, Pastor Dexter Moraney. You saw tonight, Sister Ellen McKnight Hill, Dr. Felisa Washington, Minister Geraldine Moore, Sister Loretta Miller, Dr. Lavora Williams, Sister Nettie Johnson, who you saw on tonight, Dr. Marion Talley, and our technology person holding it down behind the scenes, Brother Thomas Duke Robinson. And of course, we're excited about our seven awesome, dynamic, on top of the world regional coordinators that are bum diggity, that are all around the country making things happen. That is Pastor, I have to start with him because he's a big Buffalo fan. Daniel Blackburn in the Northeast. Sister Brooklyn Rogers holding it down in the Southeast. Pastor Bernard Montgomery holding it down in Southwest 1. Sister Linda Carper, Southwest 2. Sister Teresa was, well, I won't say if this Sister Teresa fails far, the Midwest, but she always tell me to call her Teresa. Sister Norma Jackson out in the West, and Pastor Richmond Johnson in the far West. Look, to connect to your regional coordinator, just email info@hopenbc.com, info@hopenbc.com, and you will connect you with them. All right. We know that some of you may have additional questions or comments. We'll formally close and we'll hang out for a few minutes. And we hope to see you all on Tuesday, March 7th, 2023 for our next TempleCare Matters webinar. Finally, we acknowledge once again our president, Dr. Jerry Young, who reminds us to envision the future exceptionally. This has been a production of the National Baptist Convention USA Incorporated, the nation's largest Black denomination. God bless and God keep you is our prayer.